The next presentation is from our friends at Permutive. It's Elizabeth Brennan, Head of Advertiser Strategy, who did an amazing piece for us at the NDA recently. The title is called Take Charge of Your Identity Strategy. Now it's over to you.
Hello and good morning, everybody. I'm Elizabeth and I'm the Head of Advertiser Strategy at Permutive. My presentation to you today is centered around taking control of your data strategy. The insights in our presentation are taken from Forrester and Nielsen. I'll take you through 3 key insights and a bit of a so what on what the data points are. So let's get cracking. Our first insight is that 1 in 5 customers have avoided buying a brand over its data practices. I'll let that sit with you for just a second. Imagine 20% of your customers walking away from your brand overnight. It would have such a serious impact on your ability to hit revenue and retention targets. So what can you do right now? Our first recommendation is to understand the privacy preferences of your customers. Take them seriously. Each brand has a unique set of customers, and there's no one-size-fits-all policy, just one that's compliant and brand suitable for you. Once you understand what your customers find acceptable, work with your internal teams to set up best practices to uphold them. You may want to shout even about your standards. Remember, there are potential customers out there who've walked away from other brands up for grabs. Adhering to your policy and being consultative with your customers will help to build and preserve brand trust too. Our second nugget of insight comes from Forrester research. 58% of brands use authenticated data sources to learn about audience behaviours. An authenticated data source means it comes from somebody who's logged in and you know who they are. Half of our advertisers surveyed said that this is the data they use to optimize their marketing strategies and to inform the personalization they put into their advertising. It's fantastic that the majority of ad marketers are starting to use authenticated data in this way, because in less than 10 months, it will become our norm. So don't leave it until the last minute to develop your optimization strategies based on authenticated data. Remember, you spent years honing data strategies based on what's available to you today. Take this precious time to collect the first-party data you need to make intelligent decisions. Then you can dig into understanding your data. Where do you have lots and where do you need more? Uncovering gaps this year gives you time to build robust and compliant strategies to increase the depth of information that you have available. And thirdly, authenticated data without a shadow of a doubt produces a wonderful level of richness. But the reach of this data for activation in digital is limited. Only about 5% of the web is logged in. This means that when you use information to target people in digital marketing, your reach is much lower than you're used to today when you're using third-party cookies. Our final thought for you to take away is that 41% of advertisers rely exclusively on third-party data for targeting. Not only this, but just 20% of brands have no direct relationships with publishers. Consider that in January 2021, publishers will in fact be the only source of compliant and scalable data for targeting. You can see it's a bit of an issue. But don't despair. There are steps you can take right now to improve your chances of flourishing in a world where all targeting is based on first-party data. Our first bit of advice is to wean yourself off third-party data. You have time this year to build a plan for how you want to move away from that way of working. It's important to invest now in understanding what blend of brand versus publisher data and first-party targeting works for you. Secondly, invest time in building direct relationships with publishers. They have an exceptional wealth of information that really shows they understand their audience, and this information is actionable. So I strongly encourage advertisers to form alliances with publishers who are strategically valuable to you. The third and final piece for you to take away is that to test first-party data activation, having one-to-one relationships with strategically important publishers is totally key to having your bow, but also you need to be able to scale digital targeting. That means gaining access to other reputable publishers who you don't have a one-to-one relationship with, working with a technology provider who can give you that infrastructure to do that in a streamlined way with a uniform approach to targeting is absolutely key to delivering the reach for you that you need to bring new customers into your brand. It also enables publishers to open up to audiences, to advertisers who they don't have direct relationships with. So that is the end of our presentation today. I hope there was lots of useful information in there for you and you found it insightful.
Elizabeth, superb, great presentation. Thank you. Again, lots of questions. I'm going to pick from the best. One here from Robert who says, you talk about build alliances with publishers. Could you go into that in a bit more detail? So what does that mean, building an alliance with a publisher?
Of course. So if you think about the way that digital can be targeted today using real-time bidding, what advertisers are doing is building that audience and executing it through their digital serving platforms. That means that they might not have a relationship with publishers such as The Times or BBC Good Food that they've negotiated on a one-to-one basis. They might not know the person on the publisher side who they're working with. And so what we're encouraging advertisers to do is to understand which publishers are important to them strategically in terms of having a good brand fit, but also who they're used to driving reach with and performance metrics, and begin those conversations with those brands directly to understand what information those publishers have available for targeting and to build those connections.
Okay, great. Claire's got a question here. Can you go into a bit more detail, again, that word details, give me all today, a detail about how exactly this relationship works, i.e. who are the people involved? I guess she's talking there about publishers and advertisers.
Of course. So publishers have entire kind of sales and commercial teams in a way that any other technology vendor or Google or Facebook do, who advertisers are used to working to today. So those are the sorts of teams that they can reach out to. Companies like Permutive are there to provide infrastructure. So we're also a point of contact. But it's really somebody who's in sales at the publisher who that they would want to reach out to. Alternatively, if advertisers have an agency partner, and we know that lots of them do, their media agency is set up to be a strategic kind of alliance to them, and they will know who to talk to at those publishers.
Fantastic. We've got lots more questions. I might slip in one question here because it's quite amusing. Akama, who says, we hear so much talk about the death of third-party data. Is there really going to be no third-party data around in the future?
So third-party data is not compliant with how the internet is moving. Really don't believe that it's going to be used in targeting. We don't believe that it's privacy-focused or privacy-centric. The data that will be available is through filming first-party alliances. So whether that's with a publisher, whether you are an FMCG brand and you have an alliance with a retail partner and you execute that data in a privacy-friendly way. The other way that, and I think the Google News last week really kind of brought this home for us, is cohort execution will be the way that we identify audiences moving forwards for digital. So we're moving away from having an audience ID going through digital buying, and we're moving towards having a cohort ID.
Okay, great. There's a question here from Alice, who asks, what role can publishers play in helping build consumer trust with a brand, especially given all the stuff that's going on? I guess she means the privacy regulations, all the focus now on consumer privacy.
Yeah, I think publishers have done an awful lot of work to try and ensure that they are already privacy compliant. In our experience, publishers have kind of already been through this compliance journey that advertisers are now having to migrate and navigate. So they have put systems and infrastructure in place to respect that data. I'd encourage advertisers to meet with publishers to understand the infrastructures that they do have in place and give them confidence that if they are going to utilise that it's compliant and they feel comfortable about how it's been collected.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Great presentation, great question answering. Thank you so much, Elizabeth.